In today's video, we're going to look at section 1-4, identity and equality properties. So in this section, we learn how different things happen in math that make it easier to identify what's actually going on. So the first things we're going to look at is the identity identity and the additive inverse. So the additive identity is simply a number plus 0 is the number. And you've known that for a while. A plus 0 is A. 5 plus 0 is 5. So anytime you add 0 to something, it stays the same. The inverse states that A plus its opposite is always 0. So 5, so let me put this down here. So for example, 5 plus negative 5 will always equal 0. So that's what we're looking at. Okay. The next one deals with multiplication. We have the multiplicative, that's a tough word to say, the multiplicative identity, the multiplicative property of 0, and the multiplicative inverse. So the identity one is anything times 1 is itself. And again, this is something you know from your times tables. 9 times 1 is 9. 12 times 1 is 12. The multiplicative property of 0, anything times 0 is always 0. And again, this is another one you know. A times 0 is 0. 8 times 0 is 0. So then the multiplicative inverse, this one's a little bit trickier, but over time you'll figure it makes more sense. When you have a number like such as A over B, when you flip that number and you make B over A, and you multiply the two numbers, you get 1. So what I'm talking about is right here. When we multiply these two fractions, we go 3 times 2 to get 6, and then 2 times 3 to get 6, and then 6 over 6 is just 1. So all they're doing is flipping the first fraction from 3 over 2 to 2 over 3. And then they multiply those numbers, and you'll always get 1. So that's what we're talking about with the multiplicative inverse. This is what we call a reciprocal. Okay, reciprocal is when we flip the number, or a fraction, to be more precise. So find the value of n in each equation, then name the property that is used. So we have 42 times some number, and we get 42 back. So we just learned that n would have to be equal to 1. And for this to be true, it'd have to be the multiplicative, and I'm just going to put the multi, shorten it up, identity. Okay, and this one, n times 9 is equal to 1. So when we get 1 back when we multiply, we got to think of that reciprocal. So we have to flip 9. Well, 9 is actually 9 over 1. So we flip it, and we get n must be 1 over 9. And that would be the multiplicative inverse. Okay, let's do another one. Find the value of n in the equation 28n equals 0. So then we're going to name the property. So 28 times a number, and we get 0. Anytime we multiply something and get 0, well, we must be multiplying by 0. So that is the multiplicative prop of 0. Because we're multiplying by 0 to get 0. So that's what we're looking at. Okay, some properties of equality. First, we have the reflexive. And any quantity is equal to itself, and that makes sense. 2 is always equal to 2. 7 is always equal to 7. So A is equal to A. The next one is the symmetric. If one quantity equals a second quantity, then the second quantity equals the first. That should make sense. It just means you can flip back and forth. So if 9 is equal to 6 plus 3, then 6 plus 3 is equal to 9. We're just flipping the sides of the equation. Okay, the transitive property. This one you might have heard when you were younger. If A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. So if 5 plus 7 is equal to 8 plus 4, they both equal 12, and 8 plus 4 equals 12, then 5 plus 7 equals 12. So it's taking one out and putting another in, essentially. And then substitution, this is replacing. We take something out, we put something in. And we kind of have a slight introduction to this in the last section where we had A A is equal to 7 and B is equal to 3, and then we took those A and B's out and then put those numbers in. That was substitution. Okay, so you're taking something out and you're putting something of equal value in. Okay, so evaluate 2 times the quantity 3 times 2 minus 5 plus 3 times 1/3. Name the property using these steps. So first we got to follow PEMDAS. So here we go. We have 2 times, now first thing inside the parentheses would be multiplication. So we have 6 minus 5 plus 3 times 1/3. So essentially what we did with the first step, 3 times 2, we took out 3 times 2 and we replaced it with 6. So this was substitution. Next one, we're going to stay inside the parentheses. 6 minus 5. So we have 2 times 1 plus 3 times 1/3. So again, what we did was we took 6 minus 5 out and we put 1 in. So again, we simply substituted. Okay, the next one, 2 times 1. Well, multiplying by 1, that just gives us 2. So we have plus 3 times 1/3. So what we did with this one, well, we multiplied by 1, so that would be a multiplicative identity. Okay, next one, we have more multiplication. We have 3 times 1/3. Well, if we look close, 3 and 1/3, they're reciprocals of each other, and that just gives us 1. So if we take that and multiply or get an answer of 1, that means we use the multiplicative inverse. Okay, and then the last one, all there is to do is 2 plus 1. I'm taking 2 plus 1 out, and I'm going to put in 3. Well, that's just substitution. Okay, and so that's how so those are the steps we're doing when we're doing math. Now, in the future, we're not always going to have to write out what we're doing, but doing it right now will help us identify exactly what we're doing.